Global Namaste to each and every one of you. On behalf of India Business Group Chamber of Commerce, we truly take this opportunity to heartily welcome each and every one of you to a very interesting media cell vertical. And our humble thanks to Yusuf Sheikh Ji, who's heading this vertical of media cell. And congratulations to all of you since we had the grand unveiling and the launch of real estate vertical last morning. So it's time for us to get started. We have with us a very renowned personality in the media world. He's also known as the one who really rules the media world. Started from a very humble beginning. I'm going to introduce him after a while, but the one who's really created a mark for himself and allows everyone to have their vision in the right place. And of course, how to fulfill the vision is what we're going to learn from Mr. Bharat Dabholkar, who's going to truly take us through his journey and tell us more about media and films. So our humble thanks to you, Bharat Dabholkar, sir, for really giving up your time and being here with us. A very good morning to you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Towards the beginning, it's time for us to truly welcome our business guru, the one who really wanted to make the most out of startups and give this opportunity to everyone. Since he failed not just once, but twice in his life, and of course, made it a great success, maybe please welcome the chairman and managing director of Nazara Technologies Limited. And we are extremely fortunate to have with us our honorary consul for the Republic of Mali, the one and only. We call him as the business guru, and we always like to call him Doctor, though he's Mr. Vikas Mitra same, but because of his expertise and the way he empowers every single person here at India Business Group and the likes, maybe please welcome Vikas Mitra Singh ji. Truly an honor for all of us to be here. And India Business Group, so was founded by you, and the way it's come up, I think it's gone in these last 8 months. It's gone to a level which is of international arena. So thank you for connecting us to all the various chamber of commerce across the world. A humble thanks to you, sir. Very good morning to you, Vikas, sir. How are you doing this morning?
I'm very fine. Thank you, Simran. Now, I'm particularly pleased today with today's webinar. Pleased a bit, not that pleased, also a little bit, which I'll come to right now in a few seconds. Pleased that we have Bharat Dabholkar, my old friend. And we did a lot of work together also at one point. When I used to visit his office to view the piranhas and the other animals that he used to have walking around his office, it's a place that everybody should visit. In fact, he should throw it open as a museum.
I don't have that office. We don't have anymore.
Doesn't matter, but that is my memory. I want to visit your new. Not invited me to your new one
because that office we moved out from there.
Yeah.
And went to a different place, so we don't have that office anymore.
Perfect. But one day I must visit your new one.
You can come and visit my house. All those animals are in the house now.
Oh, so invite me someday when you throw a party or something.
My doors are always open. You just tell me I'm coming tomorrow and just land up here.
And a little bit of the reason that I'm not too pleased is that when I used to meet him about 30 years back, I used to look younger than him. 30 years passed and he is the same, whereas I have grown old. So it doesn't feel that good, but still, it's Bharat is Bharat. Nobody can match him. Thank you, Simran. You can proceed with you can badger him with all the questions that you have.
Yes, all of us are like, yes, waiting to hear from him. But I really love your backdrop. It's very, very, it's not your backdrop, it's your home, it's your house, as you said. It looks very unique.
That's not a backdrop, that's my actual bedroom.
That's what I say. But for us, it's the backdrop. So for us, it's the back. That's what I'm saying. I'm just liking that. And the fact that you mentioned we've all got into creativity and innovative space right now in the past 8 months, but Bharat has always been the same. So before we go ahead and introduce Bharatji, maybe please request our very dynamic CEO, Priya Pansare, to address everyone. A very good morning to you, dear Priya.
Good morning. Good morning, Simran. Good morning, everyone. Special good morning to Mr. Dabholkar. Welcome to IBG platform. Guys, today we are presenting one more series from the Media Cell Vertical and having you, Mr. Bharat Dabholkar, with us today. He's going to give you a lot of information about things around and hope you make thorough benefit out of it. Thanks a lot, Simran. Over to you.
Thank you very much, and truly excited. My dear lovely friends, it's time for us, a man who needs absolutely no introduction. You know, he is the one who really rules the media well. And after looking at him and the space that he's coming from, we all are glued to him and the beautiful house that he's in and just waiting, when are we gonna be invited actually there. So Mr. Bharat is a very well-known advertisement expert and has worked for numerous well-known brands like Bank of India, Fruity, Bailey, Appy, Videocon, and many of the products of Tata. He's been a very resourceful man in the industry with his experience in the advertisement sector and his acting, writing, and directorial skills. Recently, he was seen in the movie Gaur Hari Dastan, The Freedom File, which released in August 2015. He's a crucial man in the industry and is an inspiration for all of us who belong to this beautiful world. Well, my dear friend, he's an actor, director, and a writer who was born when the entire world celebrates. That's the 31st of December. And he's a management graduate who did his degree in law before stepping into the film industry. He was a trainee at the Philips at his initial stage of his career and the man behind the cheesy and buttery advertisements of Amul Butter in campaign and billboards. He grew interest in the theaters while he was at Takunha Associates. Since then, Bharat Dabholkar has written and directed 29 plays, along with his debut in the film industry with the film One Tuka 4 in 2001. Since then, he's done many roles in several super hit movies like Corporate, Tararampam, Veer, and Expose. He made his directorial debut with the movie God Only Knows. But today we are extremely fortunate, you know, for something which started as God Only Knows. We all know here at IBG that we have a star here with us today. A wholeheartedly welcome to you, Mr. Bharat Dabholkar, and we look forward to listening from you, hearing from you, and of course, seeing your bright smile.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And maybe please kindly request you to address everyone, post which for a couple of minutes, we're going to request you to talk to everyone about the media and the film world and the changes that have been during the pandemic, and post which we will all raise questions to you.
You know, I think what we were supposed to do is you're supposed to ask me whatever questions regarding advertising. So instead of my giving the speech, because if I can't see who's listening to it, I get very flabbergasted. So it's better if we have a conversation. I think we about what was the subject that we had, the importance of the consumer.
Sure. So I'm going to request everyone, because we already have received a few questions in advance for people who really like to be connected. So this is a request to everyone we have with us, actor, writer, director, Mr. Bharat Dabholkar. And the topic is how to reach the right audience with the right advertising. And this has always been, you know, for everyone who really, every product, every corporate who really looks forward to reaching the target, and which is the most important aspect. I just want to know, we're going to start with the times of today, where everyone is only talking of creativity and innovation. And you've always been into that zone, and that is actually your forte. What do you think has changed in the world of advertising in the past few months?
Let me take your first question. That is how to reach the right audience. I think what people don't understand when they are in advertising or any other communication or marketing business is that creativity is one part, but understanding who you are talking to, understanding who your target group, as we call it, is, that is of paramount importance. Because if you don't understand that, you can make all the mistakes in the world and have a major flop on your hand. Now, people always ask me, what's so difficult about knowing your consumer? And I always tell them, what is a consumer? There's nothing like a consumer. You know, when you, suppose you're talking about IPL cricket, and somebody asks you a question and saying, there's a match tomorrow, how do you think the batsman will play? You would say there's nothing like a batsman. I mean, name the batsman. Are you talking about how Virat Kohli would play, or Rohit Sharma would play, or Dhoni would play? Similarly, there's nothing like a consumer. I remember somebody asked me a question one day and they said, how do you think the consumer will behave after this pandemic is over? And I said, I have no answer to that. Because which consumer are you talking about? He said, in general, Indian consumer. I said, okay, Indian consumer, consumer in Maharashtra, consumer in Karnataka, consumer in Bihar, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, because all these consumers are different. So he said, no, let's talk about consumers in Maharashtra. How would they behave? And I said, consumers in Maharashtra means from Mumbai or Pune or Nagpur or Sholapur or Satara or Wada. They're all different. I said, there's nothing like a Maharashtrian consumer. He said, okay, let's stick to consumers in Mumbai. So I said, okay, men or women, because they are different. How a man would react, what kind of advertising a man would need, what kind of an advertising a woman would need is different. So they said, okay, let's stick to men. I said, what age group? 18 to 25, 26 to 35, 36 to 45, 45 plus or 60 plus. They're all different. So he said, okay, let's stick to a consumer who is earning 30,000 rupees a month. I said, okay, a consumer earning 30,000 rupees a month and living in Mumbai, is that a new engineer or a management graduate who's just joined the company and earning 30,000 rupees, stays at Pedder Road? Or are you talking about a factory manager or a factory worker who stays at Lower Parel, has worked for 45 years and is earning 30,000 rupees? They're both earning 30,000 rupees and they're completely different consumers. So when you talk of a consumer, these are the variations that you're faced with. So one can never say consumers will behave like this or consumers will change like this. There's nothing like a consumer. It's always pinpointed to one target group. And that is the most crucial part in advertising. Can you identify who your consumer is and what they are looking for? And as we go along, if you want right now, I can tell you the kinds of mistakes we could have made if we didn't understand the consumer. See, we always, when we talk about advertising campaigns, we always talk about the ones that succeeded, that ones that did well. We never talk about the mistakes that we did make or could have made. We normally, those are the topics we don't talk about. But let me tell you, I was launching a tea for Tata Tea.
Right.
All the Tata Tea brands I have launched, whatever teas are in the market in the West, North, South, East, wherever, I have launched them all. I was launching a tea called Agni Chai, which at a later stage became the highest selling tea in the country. So I was launching that tea, and my campaign was that I had written was a tribute to Indian women. So I had written a whole jingle. The last two lines were शक्ति का है रूप यही, अग्नि है यही, नए समाज की उम्मीदों का प्रतीक है यही, अग्नि चाय. Now, to portray that empowered woman, that empowerment wasn't a buzzword at that time. It was much before that. So what I did is I collected, we always do a pre-test. We do a market research to find out people's reaction to our campaigns. We never just blindly go and say, okay, let's do this campaign and we'll be successful. We always test it out. Every agency of repute, every agency that is intelligent, tests out what they feel they're launching on an all India basis. So what we did is we created a rough, what we call a scratch ad film. We created a scratch jingle. And in that ad film, I collected visuals from different films. So we had a girl, a lady who was a pilot, a lady who was a police commissioner, a lady who was a judge, a lady who was a social activist, a very famous lawyer. And we started showing that film as a market research. We got fantastic response from women in Mumbai, Pune, Delhi, wherever we showed it, all the big cities. Women loved it. They thought, damn good, this is sort of an empowered woman who will drink this Agni Chai. Then we started showing that in smaller towns and villages, because even our consumers were there too. We were not just talking to people in big cities. And I remember I went with one research team to a place called Chandausi, which I think is on the border of either UP or Bihar, on the border of, I think, between the two of them. And I went and sat there watching the reactions of the women, and they had completely different reactions to the ad film. They said, "ये क्या है? ये औरत सिर्फ प्लेन उड़ाती है क्या? ये सिर्फ बाहर पुलिस बाहर घूमती है क्या? घर में बच्चों की पढ़ाई लेती नहीं है क्या ये अपने घर पे बैठ के अपने फैमिली के साथ चाय नहीं पीती क्या? ये करवा चौथ नहीं करती क्या?" And we suddenly realized that ये टीचर नहीं बन सकती क्या? उसको पायलट ही बनना है क्या? And we suddenly realized that what women find empowered status in a smaller town is different from what women find in a major city. So we had to change the campaign when we came. So we kept the pilot, we kept the police commissioner, we kept the judge, but we also had a mother who's taking her children's studies. And her little son comes running saying, "Mommy, mommy, I stood first, I got a prize," or whatever. Then we had the woman who's sitting with the family, the mother-in-law, father-in-law, husband, They're all drinking tea together. Then we had her doing Karwa Chauth. So we had to mix and match. Now, if we hadn't done that, and if we had just launched with the earlier film that we had made, it wouldn't have succeeded. So understanding the consumer is as important as this. And there's one more thing to this. This worked everywhere else. When we went to Bengal, the Bengali women had a completely different take on this. They said, we are already empowered. We don't need to buy tea to get empowered. We have all the power. Our husband listen to whatever we say. But what we look for, they have in Bengal, in Calcutta especially, they have what is called a pada discussion. That means in the evening or something, when everybody is free from their work, they meet in somebody's house. Then they sit there, discuss politics, fight, all friends together. They sing songs and they keep drinking tea in that house. So ladies there said that we just want tea that will make more cups. So only for Bengal, we had to create a different campaign from the other All India campaign. And we had this para discussion where people are sitting and chatting and fighting and discussing Rabindranath Tagore and discussing so-and-so politics. And then the tea gets over and the husband says, hey, get some more tea. And she says, no, I can't get any more tea. Tea is over now. Tell them to go to their own house and get the tea. So he said, don't worry. I've just got Agni Chai. That one packet makes many more cups of teas. Now that we had to do only for Bengal. So that shows you how a consumer for tea, as simple a thing as tea, differs from place to place, from age to age, from area to area. So it's extremely important that you know who you are talking to. As I said, that is as crucial, if not more crucial than a creative concept.
Wow. This is very, very interesting, and it seems like a never-ending process. And going to different places, and of course, we do have a lot of questions, but I'm going to take Mr. Vikas' question first. He says, "How is the advertising industry doing during this time of COVID?"
See, advertising industry during the COVID pandemic wasn't doing much because everything was closed. So see, when you create an advertising campaign, you expect that there'll be a reaction to that and people will go and buy that product. But if the shops are closed, if people aren't moving out, then the chances of people going and buying anything was minimum. So advertising agencies had kept their budgets in abeyance, thinking that once this gets over, we will start advertising, which they have started doing now. And I'm told that it has already started showing results. I'm told that the sales of scooters and motorcycles has grown by, I don't know, it's higher than the same month last year. So I think the October sales of scooters and motorcycles is more than October sales of last year. So I think every industry now, advertisers have started coming and advertising. What they have started doing is, in order to make sure that because people said we lost jobs, some people have had lesser salaries to take, some people have got deferred salaries. So even people like car makers have started giving great incentives. Like I saw an ad by Volkswagen for one of their ads where they said that we can buy it on EMIs and for 1 year you don't have to pay any EMIs. You can start paying after that. You just pay some initial amount and the rest of the EMIs you can start paying after the year. So advertisers have started doing these kinds of things to make sure that the people start going out again and buying things, which has already started. And thankfully, festival is here. So people always have this thing of buying things during festival. So advertising, what they didn't do for the last 6 months, they'll start doing now. So it has, I think it was for advertising, it was a pause. It wasn't a stop. And now I think the pause button is being lifted, hopefully.
Sure. Thank you so much. And, we feel that as a consumer, if there's something delicious, then it has to be only Amul. So thanks to the beautiful Amul ad that we had. So Renuka would like to know that, Bharaji, as you've successfully made Amul a hero to every category of society, how do we penetrate the market universally with our product?
Okay, I'll tell you one thing. Whenever we talk of Amul, I always mention this. I did not start the Amul campaign. I didn't create the girl. Mr. Sylvester Dicuna created that girl. And he wrote that jingle where the last line was, Amul is the answer to your wishes. It's utterly, butterly delicious. And there was a gentleman called Eustace Fernandez who had drawn that first girl. But the credit for whatever Amul is, and if you want to do things which are similar to Amul in terms of marketing, the credit goes to a man called Dr. Kurian. Dr. Kurian was the chairman of the Amul, the Gujarat Federation and the NDDB, and he called us and said, I have a choice of taking any agency from about whatever 400 agencies that are available to me. I understand nothing in advertising. I only understand milk and milk products. So don't show me what you do. I'm taking you on with faith that you will do, you're the best in this business for my needs. And I don't want to see what you do. He's the only client in the world who said, I'll back you. I'll pay all the monies for all the media expenses that you're doing. And I don't want to see what you're doing. There's no client in the world who does this. Now, if you want to be successful, like Amul was, you need to have this kind of relationship with your suppliers. Don't treat them like suppliers. Treat them like advisors, associates. Give them that confidence. A guy like me, suppose I had to come to Vikash and say, let's make a campaign. And Vikash was the client. And if he said, okay, we'll have a meeting with 10 people. We have a marketing team. We'll all sit together and we'll look at your campaign and decide. Then if something goes wrong, then all 10 of us are responsible because we all discussed that campaign. We all felt it was the best campaign to go with. And then it didn't work. So Vikash, me, and the other 10 people in that room are responsible. But suppose Vikash called me and said, Bharat, I have faith in you. I've seen the kind of work you've done for other brands. Don't show me what you do. Just show me, but I will not change anything. Show me what you're doing. Then if it fails, the responsibility is mine. Because he gave me complete authority. I should have taken more care to be sure that this product would work. So when Vikash puts that responsibility on my head, I work harder, which is what Dr. Kurian did. He said, don't show me. It's your baby. I may not even like what you're doing, but I will not change it because I have appointed you as the expert. When you do that, you empower people who are working with you, which very few clients have the guts to do it, have the heart to do it. And that's why they can't be as successful as Dr. Kurian and Amul.
Wow. Sure. Vikash, would also like to know that how is the entertainment business doing? You're into plays and theater. Is it going to online from physical? And is your English still as powerful?
English will not only remain powerful, it will grow and grow. That's the only way people will not feel shy about speaking English. But there's a story behind this. And people keep on asking about English and say, Bharat Dabholkar is the father of English. And I said, I'm not a father of English. I'll tell you how English started. This is a funny story. I've said that many times. But I come from a Marathi medium school. My entire schooling from my first standard till my passing out from school was done in a Marathi school in Girgam called Aryan High School, where it was an all-boys school, where in the 10th standard, we had lower English. In 10th standard, our English was, this is a boy. His name is so-and-so. This is a girl.
Oh, my.
This is their friend. That was my 10th standard. And then I passed out and I joined Elphinstone College, which at that time was one of the most, what shall I say, premier colleges of South Bombay. Elphinstone, Xavier's, these are two colleges which were always known as like the premier colleges. And I joined first year arts in Elphinstone. I had 145 prettiest girls in Mumbai in my class. And I had 5 boys. Now one guy, out of the 5 boys, one guy was blind. So he wasn't interested in girls. One guy was the principal's son. So his parents stayed on the top floor of the college. So he couldn't take chances being watched by his mother or father talking to girls. So he stayed away from girls. One guy was very studious. His only interest was studying. That left 2 of us who were very keen on talking to these pretty girls. The problem was the other guy could speak English. And frankly, I mean, you don't have to believe this now, but I was better looking than that guy. But he could speak English. I couldn't speak English. Even if a girl came to me and said, Bharat, do you want to bunk the next lecture and go for a film? I would answer that in my mind first in Marathi. I would say, Nai mi aila ghari jewaila yeto mun sangitlay, mi nai yevu shakat. Then I would translate that. I have told my mother I'll be home for lunch, so I cannot come. Then I would say that 2-3 times in my mind to make sure that I'm saying it right. So by the time I had an answer ready for her, that girl would have gone for the film and come back. Then I realized that all of us who come from vernacular schools, whether it's Marathi, Hindi, Gujarati, whichever schools, we know English. We have a problem of speaking in English. Because if you start speaking, you can't find the correct words in that sentence. So you start feeling shy that I'll make a mistake, I'll not know what to say. When I looked around, I realized that there's nothing like perfect English in this world. There isn't. Even in England, there's nothing like one perfect English. There's a Cockney accent, there's an Irish accent, the way Irish speak is different, the way the Scottish speak is different. So everything is different. In France, they speak English differently. In India, Tamilians speak English differently. Gujaratis speak differently. Sindhis speak differently. Maharashtrians speak differently. Now, I know Marathi. I know Hindi. I grew up with Gujaratis. So I read, write, and speak Gujarati. So I said, suppose I'm speaking in English and I can't find the right English word. Why don't I use a Hindi word or a Marathi word or a Gujarati word? And I started doing that in college. And that worked. So when I joined advertising, I continued doing that. And initially people thought it was very stupid. What the hell is this guy doing? Why can't he write in one straight line in English? But then I realized that this is what people liked more. When I started doing English theater, before me, English theater was very English. They had foreign plays, which they did exactly as it was done in a foreign country on an Indian stage. So people spoke English with similar accents. They were dressed in suits. The whole play was set in Scotland or New York or wherever. So people who understood Gujarati went and saw Gujarati plays. Those who understood Marathi went and saw Marathi plays. Those who understood Hindi plays, they said English plays only had a limited audience. So English plays did maybe 25, 30 shows and closed down because the audience got over. When I started doing my plays, what happened that time was I took actors from different theaters, regional theaters. So I had brilliant actors from Marathi, I had brilliant actors from Gujarati, I had brilliant actors from Hindi, and they all came together and spoke in the normal Indian accent. So Gujarati actors spoke in the Gujarati accent, Maharashtrians spoke in Marathi accent. And we suddenly realized that it was magic because the audience loved it. So that's how the audience spoke. Audience didn't speak perfect English. So for them, we created what we in advertising call empathy, which means I feel you're one of us. You're like me. Feeling of you're like me is the most important thing in communication. That your consumer, your audience feels that, hey, that's me. He talks like me. He's like me. Or I want to be like him. So my plays worked because of that. And then I started doing plays and then I continued writing plays. So I've done up to, written and directed about 32 plays up to now. And we performed them all over the world. All over the world. I mean, we did plays for a Sindhi association in Indonesia and the Sindhi association in Hong Kong, where we had the richest Sindhis of both these countries coming and seeing it. And then we added some Sindhi stuff in the play because I could always make it topical. So we added Sindhi things, we added Sindhi accents, and people loved it because it was made for them. So this is how my theatre worked. And now it has stopped because no theatres, but I believe from yesterday, they've allowed theatres to start again with 50% audience. So if it becomes, I'm not the producer of any of my plays. So if it becomes economically viable for my producers to work with the 50% audience, then we may start doing plays again. Or we'll do it a few months later. And people will come because, see, even if you start doing virtual plays and putting them on YouTube or whatever, see, people get enough entertainment at home. There are 100 TV channels. There are some 35 or 40 OTT platforms. By paying some subscription, or some of them are free, you get the best of entertainment. You get to see your favorite stars in that. So suddenly doing a play on a stage may not work as well. That whole feeling of going out, it's an outing. I have seen in my plays when they come, for them, it's an evening out. Otherwise, they have all the entertainment at home. They don't have to move out and pay so much money to see a play. But then it becomes that we've all gone out, we've seen a happy play, we've laughed, we've gone out for dinner after that. So it's an evening out. So that evening out feeling can never be replaced by sitting at home and watching it on your phone or watching it on your television or computer. So theater will never die.
So true and truly interesting. I mean, how English started, and today when anybody talks to even me for events, they'll say, "आप English बात करते हो?" Yes, of course. So English has it all started. For you it was need of the hour, but I think it's gone
See, in India,
fashionable
I think
or
India,
yeah.
English language has survived because of English. And I think Hindi language has grown because of Bollywood Hindi or Mumbai Hindi. See, earlier, Hindi was spoken perfectly. So people from the north knew how to speak Hindi correctly. My mother didn't know how to speak Hindi correctly. But when Bollywood started using this, in the Mumbai way of speaking, which became fashionable because Bollywood was using it, then everybody lost their fear of speaking in Hindi. Because then they don't have to speak Hindi the way it is correctly spoken. So I think Hindi has grown because of the Mumbai Bollywood Hindi, and English has grown all over because of English.
So true. So true. In fact, even Vikash did mention something. I just read his message here saying that, yes, even he had some fear speaking Marathi, though he understands Marathi pretty well. So we're going to ask him to speak the same as well. We have a question by Dheeraj who says, could you please name and let us know the best 5 memorable advertising campaigns which have been launched in India, which are according to you?
I can, even from my own campaigns, I don't remember which are the ones that I like the most. But there are, I liked, besides my campaigns, my campaign which I did for Amul butter or Amul milk or Fruity or Goodnight or Hit Mosquito and Hit Cockroaches. I like the Fevicol ads very much. I think they're done extremely well. They're very creative. They've always been very creative. There was a campaign years ago for Sil Jams, which was very creative. So then, frankly speaking, even my own campaigns when I wrote, I thought they were damn good. 6 months later, when I look back at them and I said, oh my God, they're so bad. So even the same thing happens with other people's campaigns. When I see them, I think they're wonderful. I love the Airtel campaign, which was done about Har Ek Friend Zaruri Hota Hai. That was a campaign they had some years ago. I thought that was a wonderful campaign. So there are many campaigns, but they come and go. So when you say 5 campaigns, I won't remember them.
Sure. Gaurav would like to know, is it possible for large tech companies and advertising platforms like Google to replace the traditional advertising completely?
No, it won't be possible. See, that is the dilemma now people are having, is because once digital advertising started, a lot of people shifted their campaign money to digital advertising, because digital ads gave you more time. When you do a television advertising campaign, you have 30 seconds or 20 seconds. When you're doing a digital ad, you can do a 5-minute ad. So a lot of people initially started shifting to digital advertising. There's one danger in that. When I do a 30-second ad, and let's say I put this on as an example, I put it on an IPL match. That ad gets seen 100 times during that match. Every time an over gets over, you see the ad. A batsman gets out, you see the ad. Some chap hits a sixer and on that, then you see the ad in between. So 100 times that ad is hitting on you, which is very important. With digital advertising, what happens is you make an excellent ad, a very emotional ad for 4 minutes or 5 minutes. You love that ad. What happens is, next time when that ad comes, and if your family or your friends haven't seen it, you'll say, hey, I've seen this ad, it's damn good. Have a look at this. But the third time it comes, you won't see it. You'll skip it. Most of these ads, you get a skip option, because you can't see a 3-minute ad all the time, again and again the same ad, which only has a product at the end of it. So advertising works on the basis not just of creativity, it has to bombard your mind. You have to hate that ad because it keeps on coming 100 times, but you remember the jingle. It has an impact on you. You remember the slogan. You remember the brand name because you heard it 100 times in a day. But if you heard it once in a day in a digital ad, there are lesser chances that you'll remember them. So it has to be a very fine balance. How much do you put on digital advertising and how much do you put on main advertising, which is a mass media advertising on television or press or hoardings or whatever. Because then, even if they skip the digital ad, which is a 4-minute ad, if the similar thing is put in a 30-second ad on television, then when you see that ad, you remember that 4-minute ad. So it has to be, the 30-second ad becomes a reminder of the 3-minute ad. Like when I do a hoarding, it has only 8 words. But those 8 words remind you of an ad film that you've seen someplace. It has the same words, it has the same slogan, same people. So it has to work hand in hand like this. So digital advertising will not replace mass media advertising, but it won't work as effectively.
Sure, thank you so much. Despite having some great talent like yourself, Piyush Pandey, Prasanna Joshi ji, etc., why don't we see many Indian advertising agencies at the top like Ogilvy, Dentsu, and the likes?
They're all there. They're all, I mean, Indian advertising, whether it's Ogilvy or Dentsu, or I had a collaboration with an agency called Publicis, which is the second largest agency network in the world. These agencies are winning awards all over the place. We are handling international brands. When I was the head of Publicis, I was handling L'Oreal and Garnier and Nestle, and we were handling lots of other international products, HP Compaq, and all these guys are handling Indian ads, Indian clients and international clients. And believe me, Indian agencies are doing fabulously well. They're winning awards at Cannes Festival and that all the time. Some of these guys like Piyush and things like that, they are also taken on the international boards and things like that. So I think Indian advertising guys are doing very well.
Yeah, he's mentioned Publicis, but he means to just say, why not other agencies? So that is how. So he's mentioned Publicis, Ogilvy, and Dentsu.
I'll tell you what happens is that that is one limitation. When I had my own agency called Zen Communications, where we did Happy, Fruity, Goodnight, Hit, Tata Tea, and Zenith Computers, and all kinds of huge, big brands. But L'Oreal or a Nestle wouldn't come to us because a Publicis handles Nestle in maybe 50 countries worldwide. So their first choice is to go with a Publicis agency in that country. So if Nestle was launching a product in India, they wouldn't look at Zen seriously. They would look at an agency that had an international thing for Nestle. So the limitation was we had great Indian clients. We could not get all the international clients, no matter how creative we were. Because there are times when they are given to other agencies, but the first preference or the first choice is always the international agency that handles your business in other countries. Like, I don't know what happens in Ogilvy, which is a WPP agency, but in Publicis, we have sitting in Paris, which is our headquarters, a worldwide account director and a worldwide creative director for every brand. So for Nestle, or L'Oreal, in Paris, there's a worldwide account director for L'Oreal and a worldwide creative director for L'Oreal. So when I start working on L'Oreal, I get briefed by those guys. They tell me what's happening in different countries, why it is working, why it hasn't worked. So I am briefed by guys who are handling it world over. So that is a great advantage because then I get to go and see what other people are doing in other countries. Then I get to go to Singapore and see what L'Oreal is doing in Singapore. I can go to Japan and see what they're doing there. I can go to Malaysia and see what they're doing there. So when I create a campaign here, I know what is happening, where what is working, what are the good points that I can take from those ads. So that's the advantage an international agency has. That it exposes you to so many other influences for the same brand from different countries that you can create your own thing, keeping in mind that this works, this doesn't work, and maybe I need to Indianize this aspect. And it's wonderful because of that.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. In a media campaign, what is more important? A great creative advertisement or the right mix of media platforms to ensure that the message is heard often and everywhere?
Both. A right creative thing, because I'll tell you what happens. We are in a very competitive world. And there was a time when products had built-in differentiation. Like I launched CEAT tires, a campaign for them, the Born Tough and the Rhino I launched. So that time CEAT had the kind of technology that nobody else had. So we could say ours are the toughest tires. Today, every tire company would have that. So if there are 10 tire companies, if there's Apollo and Sri Chakra and MRF and CEAT and whatever else, and they all have similar tires, plus the international brands, Goodyear or whatever which are coming in. Unless there's great creative, which differentiates my tire from theirs and makes people, because see, my dealers are the same, almost same. My pricing is almost similar. So if I say that I am getting a tire for 2,000 rupees for this car, all the brands would be in the same range. It'll be 1,900 rupees or 2,100 rupees. So the only differentiator then is, can you create something that is different, that people would prefer? So creativity is important. Now, the best of creativity, if it is not shown in the right media, then it's like what we say, it's like winking at a girl in the dark. That you wink at her, she doesn't know yet you winked at her. There's no response from her. She won't come and say, oh, I love you so much, or she won't come and slap you. So winking at a girl in dark is similar to advertising in a media that you don't know where, which is being watched. That I'm putting it on television on this program, but no one's watching. My target group is not watching that program. I'm advertising in Times of India, but my target group is reading a Marathi newspaper. So I'm losing out that guy. So media mix is extremely important because your great creative has to reach the right target group. If it doesn't reach them, your creative can be brilliant. But I haven't seen that ad. Because I don't watch, I don't watch the news. So if you put that ad on the news, I'll miss it. I watch a soap opera. I want to see Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi or whatever the other thing is, or Nagin. So I'm missing out on that. Or you put it on Nagin because you feel that, oh, lots of people are watching Nagin, but my target group is not watching Nagin. My target group is watching Netflix. So media mix is very important from this point of view. Do you know who your audience is? Do you know what they're watching, what they're reading, what they're looking at? Are they traveling on this road that you put a hoarding there? Or if I'm staying at Mahim and my work is at Santa Cruz, and if I put a hoarding at Marine Drive, brilliant hoarding, but those guys haven't seen it because they don't come this side. So it's both the things are equally important. That's why advertising is not an easy thing to just say, I'll have a great idea and I'll make a product work. A lot of thinking, a lot of work goes into all this. A lot of planning goes into all this.
Wow. Very, very interesting. In a media campaign, okay, what emotion does touch the most in communications in advertising and theater? She'd like to know, Renuka, that which is that emotion which really touches everyone to win hearts?
In advertising, that depends. Emotion works regardless of what, world over. See, every human being is a very emotional thing. So ideas of beauty, ideas of love, ideas of kindness are things that are everywhere, regardless of the country, regardless of, because I've worked in different countries. I have an office in Tanzania, I have an office in Kenya, so I work in Africa, and the emotions work everywhere. Same emotions. A motherly love is something that is not restricted to India. It's everywhere. Or feelings for other people, to show something, some kindness to another human being is something that works everywhere. So I think emotions of any kind, if used properly, where your product has to be the central point of that emotion. I see a lot of people making a mistake that they make greatly emotional ads and the product comes at the end. And those ads are brilliant, but if you remove that product, if you remove a product which is a mithai at the end and put a cement in that, it would still work because it's not linked up to the product. The emotions are linked up to an emotional scene, but they're not coming out of the product. So it's important that when you create emotions, they have to be around the product that you're trying to sell. So you just can't make an emotional campaign and put the product at the end of it. It doesn't work. And in theater, I've only done humorous theater mostly. Out of my 32 plays, I think about, I wrote 3 children's plays, which had to have fantasy. But otherwise, I write comedies. And I write topical comedies where my plays, every if I had a play A on this Sunday and the same play was happening next Sunday, I would have changes in that play because something would have happened during that week. So we would add those topical things in it. So I would keep on getting repeat audiences. Because people would come and see, hey, this time there'll be something new in the play. Bombay had huge amount of rain, so there'll be some joke on rain here. Or we had some political thing happening, there'll be a joke on that. So according to me, humor worked the most in theatre. And that is true generally. I'm talking about India. See, what happens is abroad, Broadway and West End and all that, they have those fantastic stagecraft plays. So people just go to see Phantom of the Opera or these kinds of plays, or Chicago. They are so fantastic in terms of what you see. It doesn't matter what the story is, that the effects are so brilliant. But in India, what happens is that when you are doing a thing here, I think humor works the best. Because people, whenever I've tried to do a serious play, I've done a very brilliant serious play, which was a Marathi play called Purush, which was about the rape of a school teacher. And that's the play that launched Nana Patekar and Rima Lagu in Marathi. They became famous because of that play. I did that in English with an equally brilliant cast. It didn't work. Because when I met people, they came and said, "Nahi yaar, rape and all that." Na. It was about the rape of a school teacher and a fight for justice. And they all said, "Nahi yaar, hum ye paper mein yahi padhte hain, subah uthe to TV pe yahi dekhte hain, rapes and politics and politicians." Yeah, when we come out to forget all this. So show us something funny, make us laugh. Because people are coming to theatre, at least my kind of theatre, to leave their worries at home. They want to come there 2 hours, have a great laugh at things, and go back. They face their problems again, but at least for those 2 hours, they have a great time. So I think humor, the emotion of humor works, and topicality works very well in theatre.
Sure. They would like to know, Atul would like to know, can you suggest ways to attract walk-in customers for small showrooms?
Walk-in customers, see, I'll tell you what used to happen in the past. I remember Raymond's had a showroom at Breach Candy. And what they would do is they had a huge shop window. And they would create fantastic tableaus in that shop window. Very attractive. It wasn't just clothes hanging someplace. They would create themes in that. And that would work very well. For instance, I launched Videocon. I'd launched the company. And that time they had launched a TV called PIP, which was picture in picture. Now, PIP television was, in those days, I think double the price of a normal television. But we had made a marketing decision to say that every shop that sells television that has Videocon should only display the PIP in their shop windows, not normal TVs. So our posters were of PIP. Our window showed a PIP with one TV with 2 screens in it, so you can see 2 different things. Now the idea was, because it was something novel, people would walk into the shop saying, "Hey, that looks like a damn good thing. We haven't seen a TV like this. Let's go and check this video TV." When they came in and when they found out that a normal TV was that time maybe costing 10,000 bucks or whatever, and this was 15 or 16,000 bucks, they would say, "No, no." But they walked in watching that TV. They bought a normal TV. They didn't buy PIP. It's too expensive. So to have walk-in, create something interesting in your shop beyond just displays. In that display, the display should be something creative, something intriguing. It should have a message of saying, walk in, they have some great things happening. Are you looking for some great thing? Come and see it. We have some great schemes for you inside. So attract the person by saying these kinds of things to him.
Sure. Isn't the future of mass media advertising threatened by the digital advertising, keeping in view the wider reach?
No. That's what I said earlier, how it works. That mass media is something that has the repeat value and it is beyond your control. Digital media has repeat value, but the consumer has a control over it. See, let's see if there's a 4-minute film coming. There's some film which have a skip option that I can skip it if I don't want to see it. There's some which don't have a skip option, but I know this is going to go on for 3 minutes. So I'll go and do something else and come back. I don't have to sit and see it. But if I'm watching an IPL match and at the end of the over, a 30-second ad comes, I'm not going to switch off the TV or switch the channel. By the time I do this, the ad is come and gone. It has made an impact on you. So it is beyond your control to not watch normal advertising, where digital advertising is in your control. You can stop it. You can go someplace. Say, 4 minutes चली गई film में जाके देख के आते हैं. I'll just go and I put something on the cooker, so I'll go and check it. The lady can see. 4 minutes है मेरे पास. And then by the time the thing starts, when you hear the music, see, every time the thing starts, you hear a different music or a different dialogue. So you know the program has started. So you can physically skip watching a digital ad, which you can't do with a normal mass media advertising.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that very, very interesting answer. What are your suggestions of ads for startups in food products with a tight budget?
See, tight budgets are the ones that need most creativity. When you're a Hindustan Lever, you don't have to be very creative because you can bombard the consumer with your campaigns. You'll make sure that you don't miss their ads, no matter how good or bad they are. But when you have a limited budget, like Amul had a limited budget, like Goodnight had a limited budget. So when they came in, they had to do something which is completely different. So you have to take the risk then. You have to take the creative risk of not doing something that is so far acceptable. Nobody could have thought that you can run a whole campaign for a butter when there was a major butter like Polson, which was a big brand in those days. Very popular, great market share. There were foreign butters available that time. There was a New Zealand butter called Anchor butter available in the market. And then some Gujarat farmers cooperative wants to launch their butter called Amul, which stands for, you know what Amul stands for? AMUL. It stands for Anand Milk Union Limited. So Amul is a short form of Anand Milk Union Limited. Now, a brand like this comes into the market. They don't have money. It's a farmers cooperative. If they had done the things that other brands are doing, they would have got completely lost. They created this girl. They said, let's not use films and television. There was no television that time. Film and press as the main medium. Let's use hoarding as a main medium. Let's try and earlier, before my time, it wouldn't change as fast. It would change once in about a month or something like that. I started changing it in every 10 days. Then I started doing hoarding in Pune or Dadar in Marathi, in Ahmedabad in Gujarati, in Chennai in Tamil, in Kolkata in Bengali. So I started doing that. Now, that was an innovation. It was a risk that I have limited money. I have 100 rupees. Other my competitors are spending 1,000 rupees. I have 100 rupees. I can't go on to press and films and hoardings. So why don't I put 80 rupees on hoardings? If it hadn't worked, it would have been disastrous. But when you're a startup, these are the risks that you have to take. You can always change it. See, you have to be very vigilant. You have to keep your eyes and ears open to make sure that if you find something is not working, my sales are not going up, you change the strategy. But start with something which is more daring, which is something that is different from what everybody is doing. And there's a greater chance that it will work.
Wondrous. Apart from creative aspect, how important is technical aspect in ad films?
See, technical aspects are important because with technology today, you can do wonderful things which you couldn't do earlier. I mean, now I can make up, I mean, even earlier, I mean, I'm not saying now, you can make a person sit where I'm sitting right now and change my background, and I could be sitting in Paris under Eiffel Tower. Or I could be sitting in London near the London Bridge without moving from my chair. So you should use technology to enhance your creative ideas. A lot of times what happens is people don't use a creative idea, they use technology. Let's make a dazzling film. But a dazzling film doesn't work. The thought can be enhanced by dazzling film. Even feature films, unless the emotions in that film grab you, just seeing foreign locations and some fantastic technology of people flying through the air and that doesn't work. It has to grab you emotionally someplace. So technology is great because it makes your life very easy. I mean, earlier I remember if I had to launch a Tata Tea pack and I had to make that move, there was one person who used to do that in Mumbai. He had an office at Tardeo, and I even remember the name of that guy. His name was Dev. So he had a company called Dev Art. Now everybody went to Dev Art, and he had those little machines, and he could create some packs, and he could make them move, and very complicated. Today, any studio, every street has a studio which in 1 minute they can make that pack move much better. They can enhance the look of it. They can add stars near the pack. So technology is a great boon if it's used properly. It should not be used to substitute creativity. It should be only used to enhance creativity.
Sure. How to make creative slogan? How to make a creative slogan?
You make a creative slogan by deciding not to make a creative slogan. You say, I want to be simple. I always give an example of the best slogan I saw in Hong Kong on a shop, which said, seedless grapes, very sweet, available here. I think that's the best slogan I've seen. It tells you, I'm looking for seedless grapes. Yes. I'm looking for sweet grapes. Yes, they're available here. If an advertising agency said, let's make something creative, they wouldn't say it in such simple words. They would say, nature's true essence now brought to you in its most pristine form. That doesn't mean anything to me. Tell me seedless grapes, tell me sweet grapes. I understand that. Utterly, butterly delicious, people understood. Mango, my slogan of mango, fruity, fresh and juicy, after 20 years still works. It wasn't creative. The trouble with creative slogans is they're too creative. When I launched Hit Cockroach, which was the first spray, cockroach spray that we were launching, there was a huge competitor which was launching a bigger brand than us called Baygon. And we were fighting against a company like that. It was an international company, Bayer, with a big brand. They had budgets, maybe 10 times our budgets. And they had made some 5 or 6 different ads of how cockroaches are dirty, how cockroaches are bad, they spread diseases. Our ad was very simple. The press ad was on the left side of the newspaper. It was full of cockroaches. We had actually shot real cockroaches. The cockroaches also have different breeds. The German cockroaches, all kinds of, which I have realized when I was handling it. Okay. So that one entire page was nothing but life-size cockroaches. As if you opened the page and you suddenly found that the whole page was full of cockroaches. And there were only 2 words which said cockroach, cockroach. And on the opposite page, it was fully white. There was only the red hit can. And it said hit cockroach, no cockroach. Simple. And we had a 60% market share. They couldn't beat us. So it is simplicity that works. Now, if somebody will say, what is this slogan, yaar? Cockroach, cockroach, hit cockroach, no cockroach is no slogan. Any idiot can write that. Let's do something creative. You're in advertising. Come on. That is what goes wrong. The people think that I'm in advertising. I have to be creative. I can't write the way other people write. I have to write something fantastic. That goes wrong. I had written the Modi ji's 2014 campaign. The line was written by me, registered in my name. Ab ki baar Modi Sarkar. I never got the money or the credit for that, but that is registered in my name. Now, there's nothing creative in that. But it's simple. It worked. Even Modi went to America and said, Ab ki baar Trump Sarkar. He used that line for Trump. So simplicity in advertising is what works. Now, how to make that simplicity creative is the challenge that you have.
Brilliant. So please allow us to take one last question by Mr. Ria. Do you have any marketing suggestions for real estate consultants who normally don't advertise?
Just charge less. And you'll sell your things. I think real estate, everything, I believe the real estate in Mumbai is priced so high that people are scared to buy that because that is not the normal price that they should be selling it at. But frankly, I'll tell you, when I see a lot of real estate ads, when I go to Pune, if I drive down to Pune, I find 80% of the hoardings in Pune for real estate and the balance 20% are for jewelry. I don't think Pune has anything else except plots to sell or buildings to sell or jewelry to sell because they only have those ads. I don't know how it, and they've done everything. I mean, Lodhas have done some brilliant advertising of creating great imagery with their buildings. The other people have done a thing with nature. So it depends on what you have to sell. See, it all stems from, are you selling a plot which opens to a great green thing, it has a river flowing nearby, then you try and sell nature. If you're in the middle of, like Lodhas have a thing in the middle of Chembur, then you try and sell facilities. But the problem, what you're saying is right, when you don't have the budgets, then you can't go in mass media. See, there's one rule you must follow, that you cannot say that I have 100 rupees, so I will spend 100 rupees to get mass media. I'll try and get 100 rupees to get me television. I'm saying 100 rupees as a figure.
Right.
Then don't do that. Then try and find other means. Try and find maybe things which you're doing it through, as I said now, with social media, with people repeating what you're doing, creating some interesting things on social media, which then sell. It has to be a come on and see me. It shouldn't try and sell a property. It should try and sell the concept that, do you want to come and meet me so I can tell you something great? I did LIC advertising. Now my LIC advertising had one principle. I'm not selling a policy through this campaign. I'm selling the thought that we have some great policies for you and your family. Come and see an LIC agent. He would explain the details to you. If you in that one ad try and explain the details, you don't have the space or the time. And the guy won't even understand what you're saying. So if you say Jeevan Dhara for a happy retirement, that's fine. Jeevan Dhara LIC policy for a great retirement, talk to an LIC agent or contact the nearest LIC office. So that ad is supposed to get you to talk to an agent, not to sell you a property or to sell you a policy.
Sure. Thank you so much. It's been the most interesting session we've had. Thank you for really answering everyone's questions. I think we have so many more questions. We need one more session for this. But nevertheless, our humble thanks to Mr. Bharat Dabholkar, sir, and Yusuf Sheikh, sir, who's heading our film and media vertical. And now over to Mr. Vikash Mitra. Say for your last word, please.
This was as good as I expected, maybe better. But Simran, if you don't mind, I want to make a confession to Bharat.
Sure.
And I hope that doesn't destroy my old friendship with him. When I got to know him first, about 30 years back, my company was just about to launch some campaign. And I'd gone to meet him, or he came to meet me. But I think I prefer to say that I went to meet him. And I got so captivated by his style, by his organization, by his office itself, that for no reason I used to land up there very often. Till the time he realized that this guy is going to give me no business. Yet he was so patient with me. He never told me, why are you coming here? Then I realized this, I'm coming too often. When the watchman asked me, sir, do you work here? Sorry about that. Bharat, sorry about that.
No, but then I used to go to his office at Bandra. I remember I used to come to your Bandra office also many times.
Yeah, for some reason. And then we stayed great friends.
Yeah, we've stayed great friends always.
Yeah.
I even, with Vikash, he also called me on his wonderful radio program that he does.
Oh, yeah.
I remember driving with him to All India Radio and doing that.
That was wonderful. In fact, you told me it's the first time you come to the All India Radio. It was surprising.
No, I had done other things in Marathi and even English for some music channels on All India Radio and things. But this was a great thing, talking business on All India Radio, which Vikash does. He does a. Are you still doing that, Vikash?
Yes. Not since the lockdown.
Okay. But
once it opens, don't want to see it. Once it opens, it's a continuing thing.
Good. Good.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
That was really
all yours.
Okay.
Thank you very much. That was really interesting to know for a fact that why do we actually keep coming and keep going to Mr. Vikash Mitra Singh's office at Nariman Point. And if you haven't yet visited, I think it's a must visit too, as much as Mr. Bharat Dabholkar's house. So we truly await something happening at both the ends.
You're invited to both, to his office on his behalf. I'll invite you, and to my house anytime you want to
come. Perfect.
That's so kind. That's so kind. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Thank you so much to each and every one of you for being here with us. And please feel free to get connected with us. If you have joined us today, then of course, please connect with us and send us your details here on the chat box. And thank you very much to each and every one of you. Thank you to Priya Pansare, Yusuf Sheikhji, and to everyone who's really joined us. Global Namaste.